Do you like dungeons?
If you kill us all in this dungeon, how are you gonna feel?
14 acid damage.
How about dragons?
Is there a dragon here, though?
There could be.
I'm Paul, the DM and producer of Make Believe Heroes, a 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons adventure for all ages. If you're looking for top quality production values, including music, sound effects, with humor, heart, and occasionally a bit of horror, then go now and check out Make Believe Heroes, a proud member of the Potteration Network.
Welcome to the All Things Nintendo podcast. I'm Brian Shea, and this is a weekly podcast to discuss all the biggest news and games from the world of Nintendo. We are kind of in a dry spell, but if you've been paying attention online, you may have noticed that some Fire Emblem Fortune's Weaves previews hit various gaming sites across the internet this week. And one of those sites was GameInformer.com. Later on in this episode, after a very short introduction, I will be joined by one of my colleagues over at Game Informer magazine to do an in-depth preview of Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave. But to start, it's just going to be me, and I'm going to be giving you a very brief preamble to that preview in the form of talking about a couple of games in very short, quick hit fashion that just hit the Switch 2 this week. So first off, I want to talk about Duskfade, and then I'm going to throw it over to talking about Madden NFL 27, which is, as you may have been paying attention and seen, is coming to Switch 2 over the past couple of years. So very exciting stuff there. If you are a sports fan and you've been wanting to have a football game, American football game, sorry for the international listeners, on the go. So yeah, we'll start right with Duskfade and then go right into Madden 27, and then we will go to our in-depth conversation with my friend, coworker, and a friend of the show, Wesley LeBlanc. He'll be joining me after we go over these other couple of games. He is unable to join us in a timely fashion, so I'm just going to record this on my own. He is actually traveling abroad at the moment, so we recorded that segment earlier, the late end of last week. So let's start with Duskfade. You know, I haven't played a ton of this game, but it did hit Switch 2 this week, and honestly, you know, I will fully attest to not being the biggest Kingdom Hearts fan. I heard back in the day on the PS2 when I was probably at the peak of my Final Fantasy fandom, coming off of discovering Final Fantasy X for the first time and being just absolutely in love with that game. I heard like, oh, well, there's actually this franchise called Kingdom Hearts that combines Final Fantasy characters with Disney characters. And I was like, that is the weirdest thing I've ever heard. I am so in. So I went and bought Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2 on PS2, and I kind of bounced off of them. You know, it didn't really do it for me. It was primarily the combat. It didn't really have the depth that I was looking for. And I know that, you know, Kingdom Hearts is a very important and beloved franchise for so many people. So if you like Kingdom Hearts, I do not disparage you whatsoever. I fully understand the importance of that franchise, the genius in design around that franchise, and just how, I guess, bizarre it can get and how in-depth the lore can be. It's just the combat has never really done it for me, and I would love to be proven wrong on that. I would love for it to finally click for me one day. This game Duskfade, the reason I told you all about Kingdom Hearts and my experience with it is because Duskfade kind of evokes the same feelings for me, where it's an action platformer that is starring a young boy who has a key-shaped sword. So that may sound very, very familiar. And it is extremely Kingdom Hearts inspired and Kingdom Hearts coded, I would say. And it kind of has evoked the same feelings for me, right? Like, I was like, oh, wow, this world is so gorgeous. The characters are interesting looking. The premise is interesting. Like, you're looking for your sister who's been kind of like absorbed by this weird time anomaly, and she was going to try to fix it, I believe. And then this clock tower descended and plummeted the entire world into like this eternal night, and it's your job to set things right. And the voice acting seems quite good. I'm still very early on, and then I get to the combat, and the platforming feels good. I've played it on, actually. I didn't play it through to I put a little bit of time on both PC and Switch 2 just for comparison. I will say that the Switch 2 version doesn't quite look as good as the PC version, but it's relatively negligible in terms of visual quality, visual fidelity. They both run quite smooth in my experience. The thing that has been a sticking point for me has been the combat, and it does feel very much like a PS2 game brought forward into 2026 with all of the visual improvements and a little bit of the design philosophy from 2026 carried forward. But more so than ever, I think that the combat feels very Kingdom Hearts-esque. And again, I am still very early in this game, but it doesn't have the same like rewarding feedback loop that a modern combat system has for me, nor does it really have, at least in these early stages, again, giving that disclaimer, the depth that I look forward to. It's kind of like you can mash the button to pull off combos, you can dodge roll, you can lock onto your enemies, and that feels good, but it doesn't really give me much hope in terms of how far this is going to go. And this might just be the fact that style of combat, as I talked about with my experience with Kingdom Hearts, just hasn't really appealed to me all that much. But for anybody who likes Kingdom Hearts and doesn't mind that, it's not recognizable characters, and I know that like the Square Enix and Final Fantasy characters have fallen off with recent entries. That was kind of like a way that they started that franchise, and now it's mostly just like Kingdom Hearts characters alongside Disney characters. But if you don't miss the Final Fantasy aspect, or you don't think you would miss the Disney aspect, Duskfade seems like it's an entirely strong game in that style. Let me look up how much it is. I believe it's $20, but I could be wrong. There's $30. Okay. But yeah, like all you have to do is look up the key art of Duskfade to see what I'm talking about in terms of like taking inspiration from Kingdom Hearts and applying it to a modern style. And this has actually kind of been a trend in gaming this year. What is that? Oh, there was a game that came out recently. It was a Paper Mario inspired game. And let me see if I can try and find it. Escape from Ever After is the Paper Mario homage. And then there's also Wild Blue Skies that just hit this week as well, which unfortunately that's not on Switch 2. That's on PS5, Xbox, and PC, which, unfortunately those reviews have not been great. But that's a Star Fox homage. And I've played a little bit of that as well. I can talk a little bit about that, but let's finish our discussion about Duskfade, which I'm almost done with. The giving you my thoughts on it. But yeah, it's like this strange collection of, there's these kind of dormant franchises or franchises that take a long time to get new entries, Kingdom Hearts, Star Fox, and Paper Mario. And these indie developers are stepping up. And I hear Escape from Ever After is actually incredible. But and Duskfade has gotten pretty strong reviews. So if that seems up your alley, go check out Duskfade. Again, it's $30 on the eShop, and I think well worth checking out if you're a Kingdom Hearts fan. And I mentioned Wild Blue Skies. I'm not going to give my full thoughts on that, but I have been playing that on my PS5, and it's not on Switch. Which is very weird because it's a Star Fox. It's a Star Fox clone. Let's be honest. It is extremely, extremely inspired by Star Fox, and we've seen several of these. There was First Squadron Phoenix, which I quite liked earlier this year, And Wild Blue Skies, I feel like would maybe do better if we didn't just get Star Fox on Switch 2 by Nintendo, because it does, excuse the pun, fly very close to what Star Fox was. But compared to Star Fox on Switch 2, everything in Wild Blue Skies just feels kind of bland. And you can see Kyle Hilliard's review on GameInformer.com talk to that effect. The characters don't really differentiate themselves from one another. The levels and the incoming ships are bullet sponges, so that doesn't really work for me on like an on rails arcade style shooter. The bosses, from what I understand later in the campaign, are just not super fun to engage with. Either they're not the most cleverly designed boss fights, or they're entirely too bullet spongy, which is unfortunate because I think the game looks cool. The character designs are great, and they have good personalities. The characters do, which is important in a game like this where they're bouncing off each other. We see the value of that with Star Fox. It's just that they don't really feel like distinct characters. I think Kyle said it in his review that there were several times where he just had no idea which character was talking outside of the voice, because they all just have very similar personalities. So that is not on Switch 2 quite yet, but if you are looking for a Star Fox style game and you've already played through Star Fox on Switch, and like, even if you want to heed the warning that Kyle gave in his 5 out of 10 review for Wild Blue Skies, that's on PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, and Steam. And I would assume they're going to bring that to Switch 2 at some point. Maybe they'll put some fixes in to try to make it a little bit more worthwhile. But yeah, Kyle was not alone in his review of that game, unfortunately. It looked like IGN also scored it quite low, and some others. Which is unfortunate because I've been looking forward to Wild Blue Skies for quite a while now, and that was even before they announced Star Fox on Switch 2. I think that Star Fox on Switch 2 is my favorite of all of the Switch, or the Star Fox style games that have come out recently. So unfortunate for that, but going back to Duskfade is seems quite good, and it's gotten stronger reviews. So I am going to talk about Madden 27, but before we get to that, just a quick reminder that this is the All Things Nintendo podcast. It comes to your feed for free. You're listening to this not on the Patreon. It's free in your feeds every single week. But without the support of the people on Patreon, this show would not exist. You can join the team that makes this show happen for as little as $3 a month. There's also $5 and $10 tiers. Across these tiers, you get access to the community Discord. You get early and ad-free episodes. And on the $10 tier, a bonus podcast that happens every so often called All Things Gamers, where I just talk about whatever is on my mind that is not specifically Nintendo related. To join the team that helps this show continue going week after week, go to patreon.com and search Brian Shea or All Things Nintendo. All right, so talking about Madden NFL 27, I know that this is not a sports games podcast, but I do want to give some quick impressions here. I've been a Madden player since 1994 when we unwrapped Madden 95 under the Christmas tree. And that was on Super Nintendo. So my love of Madden actually dates back to a Nintendo console. Even though Madden hasn't been on Nintendo for a little bit now, it's back. Starting with last year, they've started putting Madden on Switch 2, and they did it again this year. This time, I feel like the port is a little bit better. The gameplay feels, I've been playing on my PS5, and then I tried out the Switch 2 version. EA Sports was kind enough to send over a Switch 2 copy. And, the frame rate is a little bit worse than it is on PS5. And I'm not I've become more of a frame rate snob, but I'm still not like, oh, well, if this doesn't run in 60 FPS, I don't even want to bother. I prefer 60 FPS. Madden NFL 27 on Switch 2 advertises up to 60 frames per second. But in my experience, it seems like it's closer to 30 frames per second, probably somewhere around 40 frames per second. And, that's fine. Even on performance mode, even though Switch 2 doesn't have the horsepower that a PS5 has, you can choose if you want quality mode or performance mode. which I appreciate. I almost always go for performance mode, and I was hoping that the performance mode would get me up to 60 frames per second, but that does not seem to be the case. That said, I was pretty impressed by the character models. The football players on the field all look pretty good. It doesn't look like a completely dumbed down version. Like, it's noticeable, but it's not like if you saw it, you wouldn't be like, what system from 4 generations ago am I playing this on? Like you might have on the Switch 1 or the Wii back when, you know, the PS3 and Xbox 360 were releasing these games alongside the Wii versions. The biggest thing for me, which is hilarious, is that I get like confused on the buttons because, you know, when you drop back to pass, you have to survey the field. And when you're doing that, you're looking for the different icons above the players' heads and you press the button to throw. I used to play on Xbox, and, you know, the X button and the Y button are reversed from Nintendo. Same thing for the A and the B button. So there are several times over the course of a game on Switch 2 where I'll be playing in Madden and it will just not click in my head. And I'll be like, okay, I want to throw to Y, and I'll press where Y is on the Xbox controller just from, you know, years of using that for Madden. And it goes to the wrong player, ends up incomplete, a worst case scenario interception. Sometimes it does work out in my favor where like it'll go across the field to the other direction. I'll be like, oh, okay, that actually was better than expected because the guy caught it and ran for a touchdown, even though I, you know, didn't mean to do that. I'll take the win where I can get it. Overall, this is on both PS5, Xbox, and Switch 2. I can't help but feel that EA Sports has a menu problem. On EA Sports UFC 6, it has one of the most laggy menus I've ever experienced in my life, and it has menu-based modes. So that's just torturous, and I blew them up in my my review for that. That's not on Switch 2. Madden NFL 27 is on Switch 2. The menus themselves perform well. It's just they every year make them more convoluted. And I guess there might be more information there, but it's just not streamlined in any kind of way. It's not intuitive. And I am constantly like looking for like, all right, what button do I have to press to do the thing that I used to just be able to press with one other button? And for this, it's like, all right, well, if I want to negotiate a contract, how do I enter that? Because if I just press A on the player, it takes me to like their player card now. This is in franchise mode. Whereas like before, it would just take me to the contract negotiation thing. Now you have to press X in order to bring up that menu. I do like the new negotiation mechanics where you give them your initial pitch and then they tell you like, hey, like I actually think that like we need this instead, or I'm looking more for like a winning team, or I'm looking for more value up front. And then you can negotiate with them. Be like, all right, well, there's like a dialogue tree that unfolds and you can negotiate with them. And as you negotiate with them, like the less you bend to their will, the more their patience meter goes down. And you can also scout them and look at like their DNA. So if a player values certain aspects, you can play to that. Or like if a player really wants playing time as their most important thing, or they really want like a sustained salary, or they want their bonus to be really good, you can play to that. And based on what their characteristics are, their personality traits, they will respond differently. And I really like that aspect. That's something that I really enjoy about this entry of Madden. Outside of that, though, the gameplay feels good. I actually am having more success playing on Switch 2 than I have been on PS5. I don't know if that's for any particular reason, but like I've been making a lot better passes on my Switch 2 copy than I have on PS5. And I've been playing better defense on Switch 2. I don't know if I accidentally set it on a lower difficulty than I did on my PS5 run or my PS5 playtime. But this Madden seems like it's fine. I haven't put a ton of time into it. I remember last year I gave Madden a pretty low review score. This year I think like I'm enjoying it more right off the bat, but I will have to get back to you if I think it is a worthwhile entry in this franchise. I know people love to give Madden crap, including myself, about not innovating enough and iterating way too much. This seems to still kind of fall trap to that, but like you have to also understand that these annualized franchises they can only innovate as much as the game does, for the most part. Obviously, there are always improvements they can make, but at a certain point, they have to kind of shoehorn in innovation in order to find true innovation. And we've seen that with Madden over the years. We've seen that with college football. Now that the college football game is back, we see it with EA Sports FC and NHL, and NBA 2K is notorious for that. But I think that if you have been missing Madden on your Switch or on Nintendo consoles in general, and you want a copy of Madden that you can play at home or on the go, like I'm about to go to Germany for Gamescom, so I'm excited that I'll be able to have like a franchise mode that I can take with me on the go. So even though like the PS5 version is probably going to be my flagship version, it just runs better and I think plays a little bit better. But I think where it counts, Madden NFL 27 on Switch 2 is a perfectly serviceable version of this game. So you can check that out if you would like. I know that, like, again, this is not a predominantly sports-based podcast, but Madden's a big event every single year it comes out, or used to be a bigger event when I was like in college and everything, but it's still like, a widely played game that usually sells pretty well. So I wanted to give you an update after spending just a couple of games in the Switch 2 version. I've spent quite a considerable amount more in the PS5 version, and they seem pretty close in terms of their feature set. But, if you're looking for Madden NFL 27 and you have a Switch 2, I think there's probably, it's probably one of the better ports in terms of like when the Nintendo console is obviously lower power than what we have on the Sony or Microsoft console. I think this is one of the better versions that Nintendo has gotten over the past several generations. But for now, we're going to take our only break of this episode. And when we get back, I'll be joined by Game Informer's Wesley LeBlanc as we give an in-depth preview of Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave. We will be right back.
Do you like dungeons?
If you kill us all in this dungeon, how are you gonna feel?
14 acid damage.
How about dragons?
Is there a dragon here, though?
There could be.
I'm Paul, the DM and producer of Make Believe Heroes, a 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons adventure for all ages. If you're looking for top quality production values, including music, sound effects with humor, heart, and occasionally a bit of horror, then go now and check out Make Believe Heroes, a proud member of the Potteration Network.
We are back, and I am now joined by a special guest from the Game Informer crew. It's Wesley LeBlanc, and the reason I am bringing him in here is last week we got a whole bunch of new information for Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave through the form of a Nintendo Direct devoted specifically to that highly anticipated game. Wes has actually had his chance to play this game. He's spent several hours exploring the world of Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave, and on top of that, he wrote the Game Informer cover story for another highly anticipated Nintendo Switch 2 game, Onimusha, Way of the Sword. If you're watching the video version, you can see him holding up that beautiful Game Informer cover art right now. Mine just arrived in the mail. I'm super excited. It looks great in print. But Wes, thanks so much for joining me for this main segment. How are you doing?
I'm doing great because I've been playing Fire Emblem for the past however long, and I just hit like 10 or 11 hours last night, and
wow,
I kind of just want to get back to playing more Fire Emblem, Brian.
Well, I guess that's where we'll start. Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave, we talked about it last week on the episode with Hayes Madsen, talking through all the stuff that they revealed in that Nintendo Direct. It got me pretty excited. I am not the biggest Fire Emblem fan. I talked about that. Like I have like a casual relationship, I believe is how I explained it to Hayes, where it's like I start every Fire Emblem game as it comes out ever since Awakening hit. And I loved Awakening. I played probably about 20 hours of that game, so I didn't beat that game. Then, the subsequent games, Fates, Three Houses, Engage. Mm-hmm. I try them, I get a few hours in, and then I just get sidetracked with other stuff. It's not, I don't stop because of a lack of interest or a lack of enjoyment. I just find other things and then I get distracted with that, which is the curse of a games media person. But, it's one of those series where I always want to dive deeper. And I'm wondering if Fortune's Weave is the one, because they're doing a lot of really cool structural stuff, at least on paper. But that's why I brought you on here, Wes, because you can tell me, at least based on the preview embargo, how is this panning out?
Yeah, so Yeah, to your point, I'll just introduce myself with some Fire Emblem. My first big one that I like finally got into is Three Houses, which is relatively new in the Fire Emblem series, 2019 on Switch, and I loved that game, like one of my all-time favorites. And I went back and played some of the older ones on 3DS, Awakening, Revelations, and whatnot. And I reviewed Engage for us. I reviewed Three something, not Three Houses. It's
Three Hopes.
Three Hopes, the Musou game, which is not a Fire Emblem, but you know. And yeah, so when I got code for Fortune's Weave, I was super excited. One, because I love Fire Emblem and I'm stoked. And two, I feel so lucky that I get to play this game in August instead of September when the onslaught of games comes. Because this is one of my most highly anticipated games, but everyone at Game Informer is going to be having multiple reviews probably in September. So like, who knows when I would have gotten to Fire Emblem otherwise. And that said, man, this game is so fun. It's so good to be back into a brand new Fire Emblem. So if you've played Engage and Three Houses, I would say this is basically way more in line with Three Houses. Engage was kind of a celebratory anniversary style game where it really focused on the combat. The story was, you know, kind of whatever, just Saturday morning Power Rangers team up type of narrative. But it was really meant to celebrate where Fire Emblem has come so far. Three Houses was kind of that stepping stone into something new and bigger and this fully realized 3D Fire Emblem series. And Fortune's Weave is continuing that, both spiritually and like quite literally directly, because if you've paid attention to any of the trailers or anything, you know Sophis, the young girl goddess from Three Houses, returns grown up in Fortune's Weave. I don't have much to say about her so far in Fortune's Weave because there's just not much happening. You know, 10 hours into what is probably going to be an 80, 90-hour game is very little. I have seen her and she is definitely older, but like her role in the story and whatnot, not super clear. I think that she's behind the time traveling stuff that Fortune's Weave is all about, but that's really all I know. That said, to set the table, Fortune's Weave is I think a really smart look at what threw people off with Three Houses. In Three Houses, you have the three houses to choose from, and you select one in the beginning without really knowing where they're going, and you're stuck in that path for the entire game. And most people don't have the time to play three massive RPGs in one game like that, three different paths. And that was one of my biggest critiques. I feel lucky. I picked the Black Eagles, which is the best house in Three Houses. So I got lucky and got to experience what I think is the best narrative in the game, but I never got to go back and play the other two. Fortune's Weave is addressing that directly by giving you four different narrative paths to go on, but the layout is such that you don't pick a path and you're stuck to it for the entire game. Instead, you pick a path, you do whatever you want in it, and at pretty much any time you can exit that path and go into a different path. And the same with all four characters. And the reason that is because Fire Emblem takes place during, I don't even know the time period, but like sometime in the future, and then you dive into the past through this special system to experience
5-year time gap.
5-year time gap. Okay. I actually haven't watched the direct yet just because I was like, I'm playing this. I don't need to watch this direct.
Yeah, of course.
But yeah, so you dive back into the past to experience these heroes' stories and try to change the past so that they can help you in the present. And so far, I'll say a Game Informer, a colleague and video editor, Eric Van Allen, has been playing through Kai or Sai's route. He's the young child. And to summarize his thoughts, that story is more of like not isekai, what is the word he used? Similar to like One Piece. It's just like a young kid growing up, coming of age story, fighting to have a better life, coming into his own, wants to be treated like an adult and not a child. That sounds cool. I went with Leda. She is on a path of revenge. Her family was murdered and she wants to get revenge, and she doesn't really care about her life outside of that. As far as she cares, once she finishes out this task of getting revenge, she could die. She doesn't care. She is a special bard, and she goes around from town to town wooing people with her performances and her dances. But her ultimate goal is to learn more in these taverns about where her family's murderers might be. And I thought that was more intriguing. You kind of get a little taste of each character before you select the route. That said, once you jump into the routes, they are very similar in how they play. because you have this huge map and you have the main central capital, Dagestan.
Dagdon.
Dagdon. Okay, yeah. The Dagdon Empire, and then the main city with the Colosseum is Dagson or something like that. So basically, you get to this place and you need to compete in this Colosseum. And to do that, though, you need to like get more powerful, rank up, build some support among your team members, recruit new allies. And to do that, you go out into the world and do like different activities. So you have the big map, and you have like say 60 turns before you got to return to the Colosseum to fight in it for the qualifier match or something. You kind of roam around the map from like this top down view, almost like a god view, and like you stop at like a pond and you can search it, and that takes one turn, and you'll find fish that you can cook later. You'll stop at a market and you can buy stuff and find unique weapons. Or you'll stop at a tavern as Letta and woo crowds with your performances and dances, and you learn more stuff. And then, of course, there's places where you'll stop and you need to help somebody or fight some beast or do a side quest that involves killing these thieves. And that's where the standard Fire Emblem combat comes into play. It sets up the map. You've got your grid and you're doing Fire Emblem. I will say from on the field, it still was very much Fire Emblem. They're not doing too much different there. There's a couple things I'll touch on. Your main character, you have Blaze Arts, which is like this special powerful move that you can use whenever, but it costs HP to do so. So there's a push and pull of how you want to use it. The Sai or Kai, the one that Eric went with, sounds much better. His character does extreme damage. He actually thought it was kind of OP. Leda just buffs allies around me. So it's not like too OP. It just gives them extra strength and stuff and defense. But you also have combat arts. Every character has combat arts. That allows them to use their weapon in a more damaging special way, but at the cost of durability. So a weapon has X amount of durability. Every time you use combat arts, you whittle down that durability. And you can later find a blacksmith to fix that durability and stuff. But your normal attacks don't affect durability. So don't get scared. This isn't like a Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom situation. Not every hit is doing durability damage. And so as far as like the combat goes, those are really the big differences. You do have blessings. I've only got one blessing right now, which is they've talked about in the direct. I know they let you go back a turn and redo it. In my 10 hours, I haven't actually had to do that once yet. Admittedly, I'm still feeling, I feel like I've maybe just starting to move out of tutorialization, which is good. I think there needs to be tutorialization. There's a lot happening in this game. So I haven't really been super challenged yet, but I'm looking forward to seeing what more of these blessings are. It's Fire Emblem. The combat continues to feel great. That rock, paper, scissors formula is on display here again, and I love it. The animation is crazy. Like this game looks so much better than even Three Houses or Engage or anything else. Like it's so vibrant and colorful, and the little 3D art portraits they have for each character in a very Persona style looks amazing. And then each of the combat animations it all really shines on the Switch too. And I haven't had any performance issues running it. It seems to be 30, but no issues there. And then the other type of combat in the game is something we haven't seen since, I think it was Fire Emblem Gaiden in Japan, which we didn't get till 2017 or 2021, maybe. It was Fire Emblem Echo Shadows of Valencia, which was a remake. And that has dungeon exploration.
Yeah, I saw
and
that.
And this game returns to that dungeon exploration. If I had to critique, like the one thing I'm not enjoying in Fortune's Weave so far is this dungeon exploration. I think it's cool, but when you fight an enemy, it goes into like a 2D. Sorry about to sneeze. Sorry about that. It goes into like a 2D typical turn-based battle, but it's not like you're using your whole squad is out, but you only get one turn. You only get one attack per turn, so you choose who you want to attack, which is fine and cool. My problem is it's not really pushing me. I'm not feeling much tension for it, and there doesn't seem to be much in the way of like super effective or not effective. And they have an auto battle button, and they even have a button that's on screen the entire time that is just like skip to conclusion. So it just skips the whole battle and tells you who won. And I am finding that I want to push that button more often than not because I'm not just super engaged in these battles. And it's also like, I don't know, I'm a little cautious of it. Like maybe Nintendo's even aware these battles aren't necessarily up to snuff because you have a button that literally skips it completely. And sure, dungeons are for grinding and stuff, but a good dungeon you don't want to skip. You enjoy the grinding and you enjoy the combat that's happening in there. So I'm a little wary of that, and I hope that it expands as I keep playing. But so far, I'm not really impressed with this return to dungeon exploration.
When I heard about that, I was actually hopeful that when they were going to do like the kind of turn-based battles, that they would draw from the inspiration that they clearly have had with crossing over with the Persona franchise, with like the Tokyo Mirage sessions and games like that, where it's like, okay, well, you have this kind of cross-pollination that exists between one of, if not the best turn-based RPG. Yeah. Like I was hoping they would have a little bit of, maybe inspiration pulled from that, but it doesn't sound like it's super great.
No, it's just, I mean, you have your whole squad of 5 or whatever. I have 5 right now out, and they have like axes and swords and bows. And so, but you get 1 attack per turn, and then it's the enemy's turn. And they have like a crew of enemies as well. And you'll see, oh, a swordsman is up to bat. So like, let me counter that. Or a guy on a horse is, so let me counter that. But I don't know. Yeah, it's just not very engaging. It's not as lively. It definitely is nowhere near as good as the grid-based stuff. So I'm trying my best not to use that button, but it's getting harder and harder because I'm just not finding too much fun in those dungeons.
Are there any like problems with simulating it? Like I'm take like MLB The Show, for example. Stick with me. There is a connective tissue here.
Okay.
They have all these mini games. Like when you have an off day in the schedule, you can do mini games, and like it's like go to the batting cage, and if you sim it, you get like 3 upgrade tokens. But if you do the actual mini game and then like get a gold medal in the mini game, you get like 15 upgrade tokens. So it's like, yeah, I could save time and sim it, but I wouldn't get as good of rewards. Is that the case here, or is it just save time and no like fault of your own? Like you don't undercut your rewards.
Kind of, in the sense that in both the grid-based combat and the turn-based dungeon stuff, the main character you use, or the character that does the best or does the most damage, will get the most experience. And so when you do skip to conclusion or whatever, you're not getting the choice. And so dungeons are for grinding. So I have like one character that's like 3 levels under. So I've been focusing on leveling him up. And if I do skip to conclusion, he might not attack at all that turn, and he'll just get very little experience. Whereas if I stay in control, I can make sure that he's the one attacking every turn and getting the most experience. So there is that. But I'm not really hitting a point where experience is hard to come by yet. And of course that could change. I'm so early in the game that I'm not like worried about losing that character focus by skipping the battle. There's other stuff to do in the dungeons. It becomes like you walk around in a 3D space, and you can like hit crates and crystals to get smithing stones and stuff like that. And there's chests in there, and it tells you how many are left, and you can like use a mine or a dungeon, for example, to go from like one part of the map to the other. So there's still like, I'm definitely still going to be going into dungeons. I just wish the combat was a little more engaging, especially when the real combat of Fire Emblem is so top notch for me. Yeah, so that's like my one downside I'm experiencing so far. Narratively, I haven't gotten too far into things. 10 hours is not a lot, especially when most of that is like learning systems and battling and stuff. But the characters are really well voice acted. I'm enjoying the motivations I'm seeing, and it's always fun to meet a new character and wonder if I'm going to recruit them. So, yeah, I'm really locked in right now.
Well, it's great to hear that overall it sounds great. Have you tried to take on the final boss without going back in time and recruiting these heroes? That was one thing that they said on the direct. I don't know if that is included in the preview embargo or not, but like, how difficult does that seem to be?
I haven't yet. I actually did not know that was possible until I heard such from the direct. I am curious to like go in and see if that's possible, because if it's like a Breath of the Wild situation, like, people are definitely going to do it. Obviously, you'd be missing the whole point of the game. But yeah, it's like I've mostly been in the past. I have not done too much of the 5 years later stuff at all. Like my character made protagonist so far is his role in the past is he's like a white bird, and you can go talk to him on a perch. And similar to Three Houses and stuff, when you can do like the tea parties and you have to guess the right answer. You are the bird looking at the character, and they're like, oh, I can't sleep tonight. I wonder if someone should sing me a melody to help me fall asleep. And then you get 3 options, and it's like dance, fly away, or tweet a melody. And you obviously click that one, and it makes the person happy. And that's building a support relationship between the White Raven and Letta, but I'm not too sure where that's going to go. I know that apparently, because like the tutorial told me, when I'm in need, the White Raven will come to help. I don't know if that means if I die, he'll like revive somebody or what, but I'm still on the lookout for the wider role of the protagonist. Because right now the protagonist for me is Letta. She's one of the heroes in the past, not the character made protagonist.
And speaking of the character made protagonist, is that character completely silent? Is it like kind of like a Joker from Persona situation where you get like little lines here and there? Like how does that work? And like, is it jarring if they are mostly or completely silent in like cutscenes or anything like that?
So you get to make your character, and there's lots of options. Nothing too robust, but you get to design him or her how you want. And you don't get to pick a voice or anything in the character customizer. So I was like, okay, it's going to be a silent protagonist. But no, they actually do have a voice. I haven't heard the female option or the alternative option, but like into cutscenes and stuff or during fights, my guy was talking, and I was like, oh, okay, he does have a voice.
That's good.
Yeah, so it's nice. And I wouldn't say it's like weird or silent or just occasionally. Like, he seems to be a fully voiced character.
Okay, that's good. That was one of the concerns that Hayes and I had last week of like, all right, we're not seeing any footage of this protagonist talking, whereas we're seeing like all the other heroes talking, and we didn't know if it was going to be like kind of one of those weird, awkward situations where it's like your internal dialogue is supposed to fill in what's happening in the cutscene. It's like, I don't want that in 2026.
Yeah. I mean, he's definitely like more of the quiet, confident hero type, so he's not as chatty as everyone else, but like he does talk for sure. I've heard my guy's voice.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah.
I don't know how much more we can say about Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave based on this being the preview embargo. We'll have a lot more to talk about it when we get around to the review timing. But anything else that we need to know about this as we look ahead, like, just over a month until this game comes out?
No, I mean, just know that there's a million systems I haven't even mentioned here because, I mean, there's just so much going on in this game. Like training returns, you can feast with your allies to raise support. There's support conversations, those return. There's gifts. There's so much going on in this game. And if you are a Fire Emblem fan, you're really going to like this. And I think something too that I want to say to like the longtime Fire Emblem fans, because I know that in the community, there's a split between like Three Houses fans and old school fans, with Three Houses leaning a bit too much into that sim element. I think Fortune's Weave strikes a better balance. Like it feels not less interested, but it's not as reliant on the social sim nature of it. It's more that like the social sim nature is a nice benefit or bonus or system to engage with on top of classic Fire Emblem combat, which continues to rule. So yeah, I wouldn't expect this to be as Persona-y as Three Houses felt, but those things are definitely still there, but in a much more balanced capacity.
Well, Wes, thank you so much for talking all about Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave. As I said last week, if Ocarina of Time isn't your most anticipated Nintendo game for the rest of 2026, it's probably Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave, and it sounds like that excitement might be pretty justified at this point. So
yeah.
Very much looking forward to getting my hands on Fortune's Weave when it comes out on Switch 2 September 17th. So something that if last week's episode didn't sell you on it, maybe this week's episode did.
Hi there, I'm Hugh from Poderation. If you like today's show, why not check out Dungeons and Dragonfruits, the bizarre, strange, and queer in every sense of the word D&D podcast. Join 5 friends as they laugh, learn, and adventure their way through the weird, wonderful world of Widdershins, where dragons hatch from trees and have adventures of all forms in every shape and size. Available wherever you can get your podcasts.
Now, before we get out of here, Wes, you played another game that is coming to Switch 2 in the month of September. It's also coming to every other major platform, but we're focused on the Switch 2 edition here, which you have not played, but you've played the other versions. So that we're just going to accept that and hope that it runs well on the Switch 2. That is Onimusha, Way of the Sword. You traveled out to Osaka, Japan to visit Capcom's offices, which I've been in for the Street Fighter 6 cover stories, but you went out there for the Onimusha Way of the Sword cover story. And then after playing the game and interviewing the developers, you guys took a little day trip up to Kyoto to visit some areas that inspired levels in the game. So I guess just talk to me about this trip and what you came away with in terms of like your impressions of Onimusha.
Yeah, so I really love the Onimusha games. I actually just replayed the 1 and 2 remasters, and I think they hold up really well if you want to get a taste for Onimusha before Way of the Sword. But
those are also on Switch, by the way.
Yes, yeah, but you don't need to. They're not connected. They're not connected at all, but that's a good way to get a feel for what this series is, which is Capcom's long dormant samurai action swordplay game. This is not a Souls-like. Don't worry, I know people are out there talking about challenging bosses. They are hard bosses, but this is not a Souls-like in any way. And even Capcom was very adamant on telling me that.
Just to be clear, like just because a game is difficult and is a third-person action game does not automatically make it a Souls-like. Like I wrote our Ninja Gaiden 4 cover story. I was stuck on one of those bosses for probably an hour in the Platinum offices when I was playing that. Nobody in their right mind would describe Ninja Gaiden 4 as a Souls-like, and I think Onimusha sounds like it's more in line with Ninja Gaiden than it does like a FromSoft game.
Yeah. So Onimusha so far is definitely continuing the dark fantasy vibe of the older games, but it has a little bit less of the kookiness that I think the original games have, which is either a benefit or a boon or something you might not like. But I'm enjoying the balance they're striking here. Basically, you are protagonist Miyamoto Musashi, who is a famous historical samurai in Japanese history. He won 62 duels undefeated, and he's famous for inventing the dual katana or dual sword samurai style that is synonymous with samurais today. And but this takes place earlier in his life. He's in his 20s. He hasn't yet developed the dual katana approach. So you have a single sword in this game, and there's a huge emphasis on that sword play. And that's something I learned a lot while talking with Capcom was, there is returning moves like the Isen, which is when you attack at the exact same time the enemy attacks, and it does this super special attack, often insta-kills mob enemies or really hurts bosses. There is a chain Isen, so you can do it to multiple enemies. There's a parry, there's a dodge, there's a reflex dodge. There are like a million ways to respond to an enemy attack, and it is all designed to make you feel like this master samurai. Like you walk into a room, there's 15 enemies all staring you down, and they attack you, and you just slice through all of them using your offensive and defensive combat kit. And it just feels so good. And part of that is what Capcom is calling the dynamic dismemberment system, which they actually had to task RE Engine engineers with making. So they watched a lot of samurai movies, and especially like ones about Musashi, and you know from samurai movie, like when they die, they do like the dramatic like 5 or 6 seconds where they're sitting there and then they fall over, or they like have their, like, it's not a quick death. And they really wanted to emphasize that in the combat. So Musashi will slice through a Genma or a demon, and like their body will cut in two and then like slowly fall apart in a very like cinematic way. And there's just so many different ways that you can cut and dismember and slash through and slice up enemies, and it doesn't get boring to watch. And in the same boat, Musashi has so many ways to block or respond to enemies. Like it's crazy. Like he blocks from like every possible direction you can think of. And it's really cool to see, once Capcom has put a lot of work into those animations. Like there are so many animations that it just feels so fresh to play, especially in an action genre that I think can sometimes feel stale, like a couple hours in when you know everything. It's the first game in a minute where I don't know what all the buttons on a controller do. And it feels really good to be like, I have so much to learn. And that's probably one of my most exciting takeaways of Onimusha. So I got to play 2 to 3 hours of it. The first hour or so is what people at SGF got to play. It's what recent previews that just went out are about. It's you're strolling along in Kyoto which is like an open town hub with NPCs and side quests and things to collect. And you're going to the Yasui Kompiragu Shrine, which I actually went to in Kyoto. It used to be more, I don't want to say taken more seriously, but it used to be like this. There's a special stone with the hole in it, and you would write down your wish, stick it on the stone, and cross forward into the hole and then out through the hole. And back then it was taken very seriously. And there were rumors that like the god that, watched over that was kind of like a genie type of character. Like he'll grant your wish, but he might mess with you in doing so. Nowadays, it's like a fun, I don't want to say tourist attraction, but like nobody's scared about this god who's going to mess with your life.
So it's less of a Robin Williams genie and more of like a Jafar genie is what you're saying.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. And so Capcom, aware of that Kyoto myth and legend, have taken that and put it into the game in the form of a boss demon named Rashagan, the Wish Warper. Your introduction to him is there's a woman who is like she's an apprentice or she works for like a royal figure, and she's supposed to learn how to play the shamisen, and she has to practice every single day on orders from this royal figure. And she's so tired of doing it. Her fingers hurt. She doesn't want to play this dang instrument anymore. So she goes to Rashagan and is like, can you please make it so I don't have to play this instrument anymore? And he's like, yes, absolutely, I can do that. And he cuts her fingers off. So her wish is granted. She doesn't have to play this instrument anymore, but that's because she doesn't have fingers. And
so it's just a monkey paw situation.
Exactly. Yeah. And so Musashi goes to this god, and this god's like, I can take that Oni gauntlet off your arm, because he doesn't want it there anymore. And Musashi very smartly is like, sure, you could, but I bet you're just going to take off my whole arm. And I need that to be the best samurai in Japan, which is his ultimate goal. And so they actually get into a fight. It's a really cool boss fight. You can go watch it and see it and read about it. Marcus Stewart, Game Informer's Marcus Stewart, has a nice preview about it. But what I got to play that no one else has played was this underground lab in Kyoto. It's under the Imperial Castle of the time. And it's the home to a Genma lady thing, monster, I don't know, named Dokyo. She looks more aligned with like a Tim Burton character, very elongated appendages, her neck's super long, and she has a very shrill and petulant personality. She's very captivating. Like she's a scene stealer for sure. And your introduction to her is grotesque and brutal because she is taking and kidnapping humans and children and women and morphing them with animals and demons to create all new types of demons. And so you're seeing and hearing really messed up things while you're in this underground lab, killing mob enemies. Like I'm killing some Oni in this room, and through the shadow on the shoji walls, I can see like explosions of like brains or people and animals being fused. And it sounds like a twisted circus in there. And it's so cool. And the whole time, Dokyo is like the ringmaster, just laughing and gorging on all the grotesqueness happening and taunting you throughout. And she's just, it's really cool. I've got a couple features on our Onimusha Wave the Sword Hub on Game Informer to check out if you want to read about it. We just posted a video on the YouTube channel last week with brand new footage of her gameplay of that region. Definitely go check it out to get a feel for what I'm talking about. But this was a standout section for me, both in that I get to explore this underground lab while being taunted by this twisted lady, and then I get to enjoy more combat and my cover story and some features on the side. I talk about some of the boss fights, but they're really cool. I fought one that was kind of this like almost looked like a Yeti made of paper, maybe, I don't know, very strange design. And the more you hit him, the angrier he gets, and so the more powerful his moves get. And you can see how he's getting more powerful because he's getting more and more covered with blood. And so it's not a boss that you can just go in and swing on, which is what you do elsewhere in combat. You have to really pick and choose when you want to hit to ensure that like your one hit's going to do a lot of damage, because you don't want to keep pissing this guy off and then he hits you harder. That was a really cool boss fight. And then later in the fight, I fought the Nue, which are two chimera that have electric tails, and they took so little damage, but you had to really focus on their stagger to do damage to them. And that changed how I fought them as well, because my sword does standard damage, but my Oni armaments, which are like my special, I was using 2 hammers that I picked up from demons. And it's like on a special shoulder button. You use those to do extreme stagger damage. And it was fun seeing how these different bosses changed the way I played. And standard combat is just slashing, parrying, dodging, just being a samurai master. The bosses, with their difficulty and with their unique traits, really force you to like think about your toolkit and figure out how you're going to use it in a unique way to tackle this problem in front of you. And I like that. I'm the type of person I will just use the same moves over and over if it works. Onimusha is like, nah, you're not doing that. You need to figure out, it's almost like a puzzle, like figure out how to defeat this boss. And it was a really awesome part of playing the game. Another place we visited in Kyoto was the what's it called? Oh my gosh, Kiyomitsu Dera. I was getting all my letters mixed up. Kiyomitsu Dera. I'm sure you've been there, right? The
I don't think I have. The only shrine that I went to in Kyoto, I think, was the Fushimi Inari Shrine.
Oh, okay. Well, Kiyomitsu Dera is
the famous one that inspired Star Fox. But
yeah,
what was yours?
Kiyomitsu Dera is a really famous shrine there as well. It's built kind of at the end of the main street in Kyoto, like the Edo period street. It's at the very end. It's kind of like on a hill, and it builds into the mountain. And it has this huge stage, which is actually, this is the shrine that's available in the demo you can play right now, except on Switch, unfortunately. And it's in the original reveal trailer for this game. It's famous because during the Edo period of Kyoto, if you jumped off the stage and survived the 43-foot fall, you were said to be blessed. Like, that's the gods telling you, continue forward with what you're trying to do. And over 200 people jumped off in real life to do this. And actually, the producer of the game was telling me, like, break a leg is an American saying, you know, but like in Japan, they say like, jump off Kiyomitsu's stage. And that's like, you're like, good luck, let's see if you can do it type of saying, which is really cool. So like,
before somebody goes on for like their guitar recital, they say, jump off this shrine stage.
I guess so, yeah. A little darker than, I think I'd rather break a leg than jump 43 foot to my possible death. But in researching for this cover story, over 80% of people that did jump off survived, which is kind of crazy, because it's like, it's a big fall. 43 feet is no joke. And yeah, there's nothing too much to say there. I don't really know any story implications there, but the demo that's available is all on that stage. And you fight one of the main antagonists in the game here, which I won't spoil, but you should go watch because he's a really cool guy. His name's Ganryu. And he is the most similar to old Onimusha with, like, I would describe him as fabulous. Basically, he's very flamboyant and fabulous, and he has that more like kind of kooky, zany vibe that the older Onimusha games have. And he's really cool. I wish I got to see more of him on my trip. And then the final thing I'll say is, like, I have so much Onimusha to share, and I have been sharing basically a feature every day since I got back. So our hub just continues to fill up with stories. I think I've got like another 10 in the chamber. Eric Van Allen, who joined me on this trip as the video editor, he has stories. He has videos coming out. We did a rapid fire, which was my first ever rapid fire.
Those are so much fun.
They were. It's very nerve wracking going into it, because you don't know how especially, and you've done them before, especially in a foreign language, because it's one thing to be funny. It's another thing to be funny through a translator and then hope it all lands. And it did seem to land. So that was almost
good. Now that I think about it, almost all of my rapid fires, I think there's been one that I've done that is actually in English. All of the other ones have been in Japanese. So I did Takashi Iizuka for Sonic Frontiers. I did Matsumoto and Nakayama for Street Fighter 6. And I did Hamaguchi for Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth.
Yeah.
Have I done any other? I don't even remember if I've done any others. But yeah, it is very difficult because a lot of that can be like based on wordplay. And like, you know, there were some where I was like, I remember when Ben Hansen did one. I was the cameraman for Ben Hansen when he did one with Takashi Tezuka from Nintendo, and he was trying to get Touch Fuzzy Get Dizzy from Yoshi's Island translated properly, and it just didn't work. And there had to be like so much back and forth between the trans. I think Ben Hansen shared that video, like that behind the scenes blooper of like all the translation going back. But it can be treacherous going into those rapid fires.
It's hard because, like, one, you don't even know if the jokes are funny. You think they are. But then a translator has to understand what the joke is and the humor in it, and then get that across in a different language. And then also a big part of comedy is timing. When you have a translator, you tell your joke, and then you have to wait like 10 seconds for them to translate it. And you're like, please laugh, please laugh, please laugh. And I'm happy to say this rapid fire did go really well. We all had a really good time, and I can't wait to see it. So keep an eye out for that. And Eric has other videos he's posting about this trip too. We have some fun behind the scenes stuff. So
One
like,
go ahead.
keep an eye out. I was just gonna say, keep an eye on the Game Informer YouTube channel and the Onimusha Hub, because like we have so much coming.
Absolutely. Yeah. You've been killing it with content over on GameInformer.com. And then I'm super excited to see some of the video stuff that Eric's putting up. I think that the Dokyo one that you mentioned was the first one that he's put up, but we're going to get some more of that rapid fire. I can't wait.
Yeah.
It's hilarious. Just circling back very briefly to the rapid fire topic and like going through translators. Ben Hansen, when he established the rapid fire format, he always started every single one with, "Are you a good sport?" And that has maintained our tradition throughout rapid fire, even after Ben Hansen has left Game Informer. And the thing that we found out very quickly is "Are you a good sport?" does not translate properly in Japanese, especially. For whatever reason, it always translates to "Are you good at sports?" And I think if you go back and look at the Pokemon Sword and Shield rapid fire that we did back in 2019, it was hilarious because Ben asked, it was Junichi Masuda and Shigeru Omori, and he's like, are you a good sport? And I think Omori is the one that goes, "No, I'm a weeb." And it's like,
I mean, that's the thing, is it's funny because that question, I mean, let's be real, we're all gamers. If you're a gamer, there's a good shot you're not out there playing sports because we're too busy playing video games. So like if you ask, "Are you a good sport?" and they just directly translate it, you're starting off a rapid fire with "no," which is the worst. That'd be the worst way to start a rapid fire. I would be like, "Oh, you're not going to have a good time." So that's
it
amazing.
is very funny though when like we do start and it's just like, "Are you a good sport?" and the answer that comes back is "No."
Yeah. You're like, okay, we'll see how this goes.
All right. Hopefully you're responding to the mistranslation and not the actual, like, "Yes, I want you to be good at taking a joke" type of spirit of the question.
Yeah. I have one more thing to say about
go for
Onimusha,
it.
because when we're recording this, previews just came out from other outlets that got to play some of the stuff I played, and they did
we're pre-recording this segment because Wes is too busy gallivanting in international locales right now, we'll say. And so we're recording this a little bit early. The preceding segment was recorded in a timely fashion, but yeah, this one is recorded early.
Yeah, so I've talked to some of the people that played, and they did get to try it on Switch. And from what I've read and heard, the Switch 2 version smartly is locked at 30 FPS, which I say smartly because Resident Evil, Pragmata, I don't know about Monster Hunter Twisted Reflections, but those two at least are not locked. And as cool as it is to see the Switch go from like 30 to 45 and stuff, especially if you have VRR on a TV, I do think ultimately that can get a little distracting because it does move up and down a lot in frames. And I think locking it to 30, especially with such an intense action game, is the move, because I want a locked, unchanging frame over up into the 50s, down into the 30s, up into the 40s in a game like this. So that was something I was excited to hear, is that they locked at 30. I don't know what it looks like necessarily, but if it's anything like RE and especially Pragmata, I think it's going to look just as great. I think it is so impressive what Capcom is getting out of the Switch 2. I think second to Nintendo, they're owning that system the best.
Yeah, what I love is that Capcom is having such an incredible stretch here with a bunch of Resident Evil games, both remakes and new things. Pragmata, obviously a surprise hit this year. Onimusha's sounding like it's shaping up great. And, you know,
Dragon's Dogma 2 is coming to Switch.
Dragon's Dogma 2, Monster Hunter, Street Fighters, obviously, you know, still pretty big. And they're crushing it, but they're also making it so that they're, like you said, they're probably the best third party at getting the most performance out of the Switch 2. I mean, maybe you could make an argument that CD Projekt Red with its Cyberpunk 2077 port, but it is remarkable what they're accomplishing with the Switch 2. And CD Projekt Red, I don't know if they've done a Switch 2 upgrade to The Witcher 3. I think I remember them saying something about that. I don't know if that brings it on par with like the other versions of The Witcher 3. However, what I can tell you is that Capcom has just strengthened numbers in terms of how many great Switch 2 ports that they've put out. So I have the utmost faith in this version.
Yeah, even at that point, like Cyberpunk 2077 is definitely a looker, even all these years later, but it is a 2020 game. Capcom is putting their 2026 games day and date on Switch too. Like, not only are they supporting the console, but they're like making sure it is a primary focus for them with launching a game. And I think it's so awesome. I'm really hopeful, although we're running out of time for the game's release. I'm really hopeful that Onimusha gets a Switch demo so that we can try it out and see, because the demo is available elsewhere. It's a perfect taste of this game. And I really want to try out the Switch's like motion control stuff. I'm sure it's, gimmicky and stuff and not the ideal way to play, but I don't know. It's cool to see a developer lean into Nintendo's more like gimmicky gameplay stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. And I believe the Switch 2 version was playable at this event that all these like other previews came out of.
Yeah.
I saw somebody shooting like off-screen footage of it, and it looked like it was running fine. So
yeah.
That combined with Capcom's track record tells me that I have faith in this version. I would be surprised if it runs like really noticeably bad.
Same. Yeah. I can't wait.
So
it might even, I'll probably want to play it elsewhere as well, but like I played Pragmata on Switch 2 and I loved that. I don't know if my Switch the Joy-Cons are able to handle the action I'm going to be doing, because those joysticks are tiny little nubs, but
yeah,
there's something special about playing these big releases on a Switch 2. It's so cool.
Well, if you are interested in finally being able to play as Miyamoto on your Nintendo console, Onimusha, Way of the Sword, coming out September 4th, so right around the corner. If you want to learn more, as Wes is holding up, you can go check out our Game Informer cover story, penned by none other than Wesley LeBlanc. Tons of information in there that we didn't even get to on this podcast. And then, of course, GameInformer.com. You can check out all of his expanded coverage. Look at that beautiful cover art or cover spread right there. That is a good looking cover spread. And then, of course, YouTube, Game Informer's YouTube channel has all kinds of stuff planned for Onimusha Way of the Sword prior to launch, which again, September 4th, Switch 2 and every other major console. But Wes, thank you so much for joining me for this main segment of All Things Nintendo.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And thank you so much, everyone, for listening. As you know, my Patreon and the associated Discord server are the best ways to get in touch with me. But you can also reach out to me at brian@allthingsnintendo.com or hit me up on Blue Sky or Instagram at Brian P. Shea. Wes, tell everyone where they can find you.
You can find me online, mostly at Blue Sky, just Wesley LeBlanc, Blue Sky, you'll find me. And I would really love if you went to GameInformer.com and checked out that Onimusha Hub. We're putting a lot of work into it as a team. We're really excited about this issue. And sometimes I play games for cover stories and I'm like, that's a cool game, I'm excited. But then other times I go and I play something like Onimusha and I'm like, dude, I cannot wait for more. And I think that comes through in my coverage, and I would really love if you went and checked it out.
Yes, please go do that, GameInformer.com. But that is our show for this week. Thank you again for listening. Take care. We'll see you next time. Hey everyone, thank you so much for sticking through to the end of this episode and listening to this entire episode of the All Things Nintendo podcast. Before we wrap up, I want to give a special shout out to the $10 patrons of the show. Alex Stadnick, Andy Junkins, Ben Richland, Big Mitch, Chad Brecky, Chaps My Ass, Damian Patino, Derek Sigmund, Dusty Beeman, Ian T. Clark, Jawar Hello, Johnny Five, Jose Villalobos, Joshua DeProy, Casey Radio Man, Kenny Shaw, Cody Gibson, Creeper207, MPI Creates, Nathaniel Edison, Ozman83, Paul at Drunk on Mako, Pratable, Rob McCann, Bobby Mac 265, Robert Sosa, Roberto Nieves, Russell Sayer, Smithy Poo, The Gamerheads Podcast, Zane Sink, and Zek 3 Sword Sama. I say it every single week, but truly, we could not do this show every single episode without the support of the folks I just named and everybody else who supports me over on Patreon.
Hi there, I'm Hugh from Poderation. If you like today's show, why not check out Dungeons and Dragonfruits, the bizarre, strange, and queer in every sense of the word D&D podcast. Join 5 friends as they laugh, learn, and adventure their way through the weird, wonderful world of Widdershins, where dragons hatch from trees and have adventures of all forms in every shape and size. Available wherever you can get your podcasts.